All right, ready to go. So let's see, I added a page, I'm not sure if everyone saw it, called Other Resources, and that's where I'm going to put stuff that doesn't have a specific category. So for example, my YouTube playlist, so if someone's sick and you need me to record class because you don't want to miss it, just send me a note and I'll do that. And I have a YouTube playlist too, you can look up those videos, they automatically go in there after. So like this one right now will eventually be in there. There's a couple of websites that have toys you can play with online instead of the physical toys. I think the physical ones are more fun, but for my videos, I need some digital ones to play with. So I often look for those, and I posted some links to them here. Like here's a picture of one here. If I click on it, it'll take me to the actual, come on, the actual tool. So this is a base place value number system game. So you set what base you want. So for example, we started playing with base 4 the other day. We'll play with it some more today. So I have my ones. Let's see, oh, I got to click to make it come out. There we go. My ones, my 4s, and then the next place value would be my 16s, right? Now here with this toy, you can only go up to 3 place values in any particular system. And you can switch place values. So for example, we're going to start off with base 10 today. So I have my 1s, my 10s, and my 100s. And sometimes you'll see these referred to as the units, the longs, and the flats. So everybody has, so now you should have some units, some longs, and some flats, right? So just we're going to play around with that idea. Just to get more of the idea of place value. The reason we're looking at other bases is twofold. One, to remind you of what it's like to not understand and struggle and try and relearn something. And two, it'll give you a better understanding of how our base 10 number system works because we're too used to it. So activity 2.1 is about regrouping. And the skill of regrouping is important because of the way we do addition and subtraction of large numbers. So the idea of borrowing and carrying is all based on regrouping. So for example, here they illustrate the number 37. So with your toys, make 37 with the toys. I'll do the same thing with mine. And usually when I'm playing with the units in base 10, I put them in groups of 5 because I can pretty much look at a group of 5 and see that it's 5. You with me? Bigger than that, it's like I got to count them to be sure. So I'll often, if there's more than 5, I'll put a group of 5 together and then whatever's next to it. So visually, I can recognize it. And there's been lots of studies with kids showing that if you flash a group of 4 or a group of 5, they'll get it pretty quick without having to count. But once it gets bigger than 5, just a quick flash, nobody's really sure exactly what it was. Maybe it was 5, maybe it was 6, maybe it was 7. So just anyway, visually recognizable groups of numbers. So here's one way that we can make 37. Now we could also go to the bank and trade in the 10 for 10 ones, right? So one way to make 37 is 3 10s and 7 ones. Let's move these guys over here. But I could also trade in a 10 for 10 ones. So let's see, which button is that? This one? Bang. Okay, so I've just regrouped those. And again, that's kind of hard to tell how many I have there, so I think I'll split them into groups of 5. You down here and you down here. So just do me a favor, take one of your 10s, trade it for 10 ones. If you don't have enough ones, I got some more, maybe more ones. We won't do this for too many because it gets kind of tedious. But just to get the idea across, you guys need more ones here. Okay. Good. Good. Oh, you got a whole bunch of those. Oh, you got the attachable ones, the deluxe models. Nice. So I'm just going to stick this in my notebook. Let's see, notebook, screenshots. So this is a good thing to do with kids, in my opinion. So it just illustrates different ways of representing a particular number. So we have the idea of 37 things, and I can represent that idea of 37 things as 3 tens and 7 ones, which is the standard way we write numbers. That's what 37 means when we write it down like that. But I could also say instead that it's 2 tens and then 17 ones would be another way to represent that. So there's lots of ways I can rewrite the number just by choosing to regroup it instead of doing the standard way. Again, why would I bother to do this? Anybody? I got 2 good reasons for doing it, maybe 3.
Show kids that there's more than one way to add things together?
Yeah, that's one way, more than one way to add things together. Anyone else? Okay, do me a favor. If you could get out a piece of paper, if you don't already have one, perform the following. What is 37 minus 18?
19.
19? And how'd you get that? Okay, so let's see, 7 minus 8 is -1. Am I doing this right? No, I'm not doing it right. Oh, what do I do? Help me out. I forgot how to subtract.
Have to add a tens place to 7, make it 17.
Make that a 17?
Yeah.
And then take one away.
Oh, right. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, so you want me to rewrite 37 as 20 and 17? All right, cool. Okay, so one reason we can do this early on with kids, just when they're learning to represent numbers, is to just kind of build them up for later. Because later they're like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that? That's weird. That's crazy. Like, why would I do that?" But if early on they get the idea that there's lots of ways to regroup numbers, we can make lots of combinations. You kind of make it into a game. Are there other ways you could rewrite 37 using these toys? What else could I do? Just break another 10, right? So I could also redraw the picture so it represents only 1 10. And then how many ones would I need? 27 individual ones. Yeah, so just the idea of regrouping, just kind of think about, there's lots of ways you can play with math. Now, some of that play can be useful, right? Like in this example right here, that's a useful version of playing with regrouping numbers, right? Which is how we end up subtracting. But then there's other crazy stuff we do too. Like, for example, just think about an addition problem for a moment. Take 18 plus 19, for example. What's that equal to? 37. Okay, now first, when kids start learning to add, they just do single digit numbers, right? So they get used to 8. So what's 8 plus 9?
17.
It's 17, right? So they write down 17. And then what?
You have to carry the 1.
Carry the 1? What do you mean carry the 1? Where should I carry it to? Up here?
No.
Not there?
Above the ones.
Above the ones? Like over here? Okay. Why did I put it there?
Because it's a 10, it's just.
Doesn't it belong down here because it's really part of the 17? No? How come?
Because there's more than 1 10 that you need to have together. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It
but
regroups
yeah.
into another set of 10s.
So you want me to regroup 17 as a 10 and a
And
7? Separate them. Okay. Yeah. So we do this kind of thing all the time without thinking about it. And then you're going to just tell the kids to do it. And that's like a lot of, elementary school's changed a lot. Instead of the teachers say, do it because I said so, right? There's more like, why do we bother doing it? Now, I don't expect the kids to re-explain why to me, but I definitely want to tell them about it just to help them better understand it. Like, I think I would have better understood how to add fractions if somebody explained why the hell I had to do it that way in the first place. So anytime we can play around with the idea of number sense is going to be helpful. Is it wrong to do addition this way? It turns out, no, you can totally do it that way. And just think, we'll come to this next week or the week after. That's really not a 1 right there, is it? What is it? It's really 110. So when I look at this, this is really 10 plus 10, which is what? 20. So I could write the 20 down here and then consolidate those. So like these are both subtotals. I have 7 and nothing is 7, 1 and 2. Yeah, so it still works out. So it turns out there's lots of different ways you can go about adding. We happen to be fond of a way called carrying, but there's other ways to do it. And then the question is, why do we do it? And the why, we can start learning early by just playing around with different ways to figure numbers. And that's what activity 1 is all about. Just playing around with different ways to represent a number. And in this particular activity, since we are base 10 creatures, we grew up with this number system, it mainly sticks with just base 10. And so here they have you play around with 243. And so you could easily show 243 with these toys. So let's try showing 243 with these toys. I'm going to break out mine. Let's see, is there a way to clear the whole thing? Or do I have to? Oh, yeah, look at that. I like this toy. So 100, 200, 1, 2, 3, 243, is that what I said? 4, 1, 2, 3. So there's our 243. Now that's one way to think about it, but sometimes we need to think about it in different ways. Like it may be beneficial for us to take one of these 200s and break it into a bunch of 10s. So I could say, hey, break those suckers up for me. And let's move this guy over a little bit. So with the way I have it right here, what would I call this number instead? I have 100. How many 10s do I have now? 14 10s, and I have 3 1s. And there's a ton of different ways I can break it up. And so that's one thing they're showing here. There's a lot of different ways you can break up 243 things with the idea of grouping by 10. Okay? There's the optimal way, which is that first way we drew together here. Where'd you go? Where that was one group of 100. That's the optimal way. Like when I'm counting back change to somebody, I want to give them the biggest bills first. We talked about that idea before. Okay. So then you're going to do the same thing in the extension. You're going to make up a 3-digit number, put it there, and then write a bunch of different ways that you could reorganize that group besides the optimal way. So write the optimal way at the top and then write some variations on that below. Okay. And we're going to come back to these blocks later on when we talk about why do we add the way we do? Why do we subtract the way we do? Are there other ways to do it? How do these blocks help facilitate that? How do they help kids understand it better? So we'll come back to them later. All right, so everyone think they got a good grasp of what activity 1's about? Okay. All right, let's go back to our Fourier number system. That one was kind of wild and crazy. And so I'm going to switch to base 4 up here to help with this. And get a new page. So we did part 1 of this, and I think that got into the recording, right? Remember seeing that part? Okay.
I don't think the actual activity was in the recording. I think you had talked about.
I talked about the red, the blue, red.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I talked about game 1 here, and then I gave an example of how to fill out this chart here. And then I talked about doing the second part of it, but I didn't get to it. So did anyone try the second part on their own with a friend?
I tried it, but I didn't write down the data.
You didn't write anything down? Okay, so let's give that one a try right now. So I'm going to record a little bit of me doing it with you guys helping me, and then we'll split up into groups of 2 or 3 and have you guys play around with it. So the first part was we roll a dice, and the dice told us how much Fourier money we get. And in Fourier money, a white chip is 1, a red chip is 4, and a blue chip is 16, because they have a base 4 number system. And we had to build up to 2 blues, which was 2 16s. In the new game, we're gonna do it backwards. We're gonna do subtraction, which is a little harder on the brain. And we're gonna start with 3 blues, and every time we roll, we have to take away. Now, when you take away, you've got to do some trading in, right? Like we had to do trading in for this right here. We traded a 10 for 10 ones. Now, in Forian, when I trade, those aren't 10s, they are what in this column? 4s. So when I trade, I'm trading a red for 4 whites or a blue for 4 reds. Okay, so I'm going to go grab the chips in just a moment so you guys can play with them, but just help me work this out. So I'm going to draw myself a new game sheet here. So I have to consider the roll that I'm at, what I roll, and then I have blue chips, I have red, and then I have white. And I start with 3, none, and none, and then we start trading in to see what happens. So I'm just going to make a note here on the side that at the moment I have 1, 2, 3 blue ones. So I'll have blues move like this, reds like that, and for white I'm just going to make a black circle if that's okay. So then I got to roll the dice. I'm going to go find a virtual dice roller online. Virtual dice. And oh, Google's got one right there for me. Thank you, Google. All right, so Google says I rolled a 2. Pretty cool. So then I got to figure out what to do with it. So every time I roll, I lose, right? So do I have 2 whites to remove from my set? Not at the moment. So what do? I got to go to the Forian bank, right? And one of you guys is going to be the Forian bank. And I got to get rid of one of those blues and replace it with 1, 2, 3, 4 reds. Okay. Can I take the 2 whites away yet?
No.
Not yet. I got to borrow yet again, right? So subtraction. We're just doing it in a different base. So I'm going to get rid of one of those. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm in a position where I can finally take those 2 off. You're gone, and you're gone. And so that's what I have at this stage of the game. So I rolled, so that's before I roll. Then I rolled a 2, so I now have 2 blue, 3 red, and 2 white. You with me? Okay, let's do it again. So having these chips in front of you is a good idea. Otherwise, you have to have crazy colored drawings. So I'll go get the chips momentarily. Let's see, where's my dice? Google, roll again. Google says 4. Ooh, 4 is nice. What can I do with a 4? Yeah, just get rid of a red. Okay, so I get to get rid of a red. So you're gone. So let's see, I rolled a 4. And I now have the number 222 in Forian. Right, so I'm just going to keep doing that over and over again as I roll. All right. And the goal is to get nothing. Now, you might ask, do I have to get exactly 0? Or can I just, like, if I have only 2 left and I roll a 4, is that good enough? Am I cashed out? I think that's good enough. We can cash out there. Question. If all of my Forian money disappears, does anybody have a rough idea what all my rolls will add up to in the end?
48?
48. How'd you get 48?
16 times 3.
Yeah, 3 16s is what I have right there, yeah. So ultimately, all those die rolls had to add up to 48 or just over 48 if we overrolled at the end. So that's kind of a double check at the end. And I was able to do that with the building up before by adding up my die rolls and see if they came close to the, I think, what was it, 32 of the 2 blues from 4 before. Okay, so again, the whole thing here is playing to get a better sense of the idea of place value number systems. We are now in a foreign country playing with Forian stuff. I'm going to stop this broadcast, start another shortly.